Ja, og jeg venter lige på go fra min kollega. Og det kommer lige om lidt. Kom så med det.
And we're live.
Yeah, we are live now. Well, we're gonna talk about a very hot and spicy topic today, the increased energy efficiency. Yeah, you probably got it out there if you're listening along today, because this is about the race towards the decarbonization. It's about all the new technologies and solutions that are coming to the market every day, every week, every year right now. But how can we make a standard for this? And this is a new project where Rasmus Elsborg from ReFlow, together with Dansk Standard and Danske Maritime, they are part of that project. So today, Rasmus, you are in the Titbits studio here from my home, and you are from the snack bar at the ReFlow. And this is why we are going to spice up a little bit this very serious topic. And what can you expect from today? Yes, a tidbit is 15 minutes of hardcore knowledge. That is what Rasmus is going to bring out to you. And then it's followed by a 15 minutes Q&A. So please feel free to ask all the questions you want to in the chat. You can just write them in the chat, and Rasmus and we will read them up afterwards the presentation. So there will be no questions along the presentation. So this is also a tidbit where we encourage you to remember to have your lunch. I think we all can agree on that it's difficult to find time with all the webinars to have a lunch, or even to stretch your arms and legs and neck. So it's also an encouragement to you out there to remember to do your exercises. Why not do 10 sit-ups or push-ups, or do a little bit of stretching of your neck? So you can tick that off, and that's done for today. So this is all you have to do, while now Rasmus, he will do the hard work and tell you about a new standard for increased energy efficiency in the maritime business. I'm Henriette Dybkjær. I'm your host today. I'm working for Marlock. It's the brand new super cluster of maritime and logistics here in Denmark. Welcome everyone, and cheers for a wonderful tidbit. Floor is yours, Rasmus.
Thank you so much, Henriette, and welcome to this little 15-minute tidbit in regards to some of the work we have been doing. My name is Rasmus. I am the CEO and founder of ReFlow, and today we're going to talk about a project that we have been working on, and we are working on and will be working on the next 3.5 years in regards to creation of a new ISO standard for maritime energy efficiency. But before we dive into the topic, well, I'm just going to introduce myself and ReFlow. My name is Rasmus. I'm the founder of ReFlow. We are working within the field of circular economy and digitalization. So we are developing and helping maritime stakeholders to decarbonize using different circular tools like life cycle assessments and digital tools for that. So that was the sales speech from my side on, and there'll be no more of that. And then we're going to dive into the project that is all in regards to energy efficiency. So why is it that energy efficiency is so important? Well, energy efficiency, and now here I always recommend if you just enlarge the screen a little bit, because I came out with this good idea of sending live from the snack bar. But the problem is it's not a big snack bar, so the screen is a little bit smaller. So what is it all about sustainability? Well, we have been working, and especially the maritime industry, one of the largest polluters in the world. We are responsible between 3 and 5% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. And we are on a mission to decarbonize. We're on a mission to lower this carbon footprint. And there are different paths in working with decarbonization. Some of the stuff that we're doing here at ReFlow is research and consultancy jobs in regards to circular economy, and some of the other stuff in regard to the general sustainability and decarbonization work. Now, sustainability, one of the largest contributors within the maritime industry is the combustion of fossil fuels. It is responsible for about 80 to 90% of the life cycle emissions of on a ship in its entire life, of course. So it's a big factor, and that is why many ship owners around the world, I think most of them, and including the IMO, International Maritime Organization, are working towards solutions to decarbonize, a shift over to away from fossil fuels into something that is more carbon neutral or carbon friendly. But we heard from many of the stakeholders over the last half a year that this whole change over to a more carbon neutral or carbon low carbon profile is going to be expensive. It will take cost into the development of new technologies, but it will also involve different investments in the fuel, so the research of the fuel, and a whole new supply chain. So the fuel is going to be much more expensive. So the low carbon fuels are going to be more expensive, and that's going to put a pressure on the cost of shipping, right? So why is energy efficiency so important? Well, energy efficiency on the vessel is responsible for or the energy is responsible for some of the fuel combustion on the vessel from the auxiliary engines, the generation of the power, but also on the main propulsion. So if we can increase the energy efficiency on the vessel, we can lower the carbon footprint of the vessel because it needs less fuel to do the same work. But also we will make the ship owners more competitive. So the work that we are doing today, and that's what we're going to talk about, is all in regards to this area. And our big idea is to develop together with maritime stakeholders all over the world, and especially together with the Danish stakeholders in the beginning, a new ISO standard for energy efficiency. And this is meant as a tool for ship owners and equipment manufacturers around the world to measure the energy efficiency and have some guidelines to how do you measure energy efficiency when you are implementing this in a maritime setting. So the work is funded by the Danish Maritime Fund, and the work to create an ISO standard actually takes some time. So we have started in October 2020, and we've been working with this ISO standard the next 3.5 years. So it's a very long process for many, depending on how you look at it. But as a smaller company, this is a long process. But that's because we're involving the big international standard organization, and over 70 countries will be involved in this. So it's going to be, our hope is that this ISO standard is going to be implemented all over the world and used to use as a guideline for energy efficiency. Now, this project, well, we here at ReFlow, together with Danish Maritime and Danish Standards. Danish Standards is the Danish International Standards Organization responsible for setting the standards here in Denmark. But they're also working together with the international standardization bodies like ISO and IEC, which is responsible for the electronics side of it. And then we're working together with Danish Maritime, who is the organization, the interest organization for Danish equipment manufacturers and shipyards here in Denmark. We also have in our steering group, other members, and here we have the Danish shipping. We have Maersk Tankers and CC Jensen, who is part of the steering committee and the project, making sure and giving valuable input into the work. Now, this can be a little bit small on your screen, so I will read it up, and that way you can get a better understanding. But our project, and that's can be very typical when we're working with ISO standards, it is to develop or to work in a 3-step process. So the first step is what we are almost finishing now. That's the whole preparation phase. We need to do our research. We need to get national stakeholders involved in lining the proposed project in line with something that can actually be implemented in the industry. Then here in April, going forward until June, we're going to be working on what's called a new item proposal. And that's an administrative setup that is needed for the ISO, International Standard Organization, in order to start the work. Because this new item proposal will need to be voted through. So there will be, depending on where it's going to get put in, it needs to be voted through. So there needs to be a majority of member countries in ISO within the maritime area will need to approve this idea and say this has relevance and we think this is important and we want to work with this. So that is what the new item proposal is going to do. And then we're going to have a vote or a ballot on this, and then the countries are going to vote for this. And when they have voted, it's going to get accepted as a new item that needs to be worked within ISO. And then the real long-term work within ISO is going to start. It's going to run from August 21 to July 24. And in here, there will be a lot of administrative work with all different countries will have options to actually tip in and give their input to this standard. So what we're doing right now is basically coming out with some kind of idea, a draft within some parameters. So when the work starts in the international forum, we will have some ideas on where to go, so we don't start from scratch. And that's so important when we're working with a large forum where there's a lot of different stakeholders that all have different ideas and agendas. And then at the end, so in July 24, a little bit later, we'll have the publication of this new standard. And our hope is it's going to get implemented by the ship owners and manufacturers, the OEMs all over the world, and be a new guiding towards energy efficiency and be a very important tool to drive energy efficiency into the maritime industry. Because then everybody will have a tool, just like we know from the refrigerators and we know it from IT equipment with the A and B and C and D. So if that's how it's going to look, we don't know, but it could be an idea. If the majority in ISO thinks it's a good idea, that could be a direction. We don't know yet, but that could be an example of a tool. So we have divided our work up to 4 different working groups, and this is super small. But the most important topic here is that we have a communications group, which is responsible for all the communications between stakeholders within the different bodies. And then we have the international group, who will be very soon very busy working with the international communication. Our technical group have been working on doing all this technical preliminary work, describing ideas and parameters for a possible standard and setting some guidelines. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. And then we got the whole national group, which also have been working the last couple of months, involving big national stakeholders in the work. So the whole idea is that we need to work on a scope for a potential new work item proposal, so it can be sent to the international technical committee within ISO, work on getting this good idea and this good project in for the work that's going to happen in ISO. And that involves a lot of work. We need to justify the project. Why is it important? We need to make a deliverable in like a preliminary table of content saying what do we think is a good idea should be involved here. We need to have an idea for a project plan. We also need to list what is already going on in ISO and in IEC to make sure we don't duplicate any work. And then it's always important to have some supporting documents in the new work item proposal. So who do we have as participants? We have many maritime participants, and we also want to encourage you who are attending this today, this tidbit. And if you feel this could be interesting, then write to us. And actually, I know, I think Ditte, who is also part of our work, who is actually the head of the project, is online here in the chat. And I know she just posted a link where you can look at more information at Danish standards. So if you're looking to get engaged in the work, just reach out through this link. There is a contact formula in there. So our participants are Danish Standard, DFDS, Maersk Tankers. We have PureTech who are working within, right now they're working with scrubbers. We have Hempel, we've got CC Jensen, we've got OSK ShipTech, who is naval architects, we've got Desmir Alfa Laval. So we have a broad range of participants in the work, but we of course need more. We need to get as many aspects of the energy efficiency involved, so we can make a very good project on this. So our current focus is creating. We have right now we're working in two parts, and if it's going to be like that, we need to see at the end. But a whole standard structure with the first part of the ISO standard, or what we propose could be a way to go, and that is energy efficiency for individual components. And then we're looking at a part two right now when we add multiple components together. So how do you actually define the energy efficiency for one component? And then we also see that a maritime installation and a vessel is very complex and often is made of multiple systems or multiple components that are linked together. And some of those cannot be easily taken apart. And that's why we also are looking into, if we combine some of these individual components, how do we assess the energy efficiency? So these are the two areas that we're working out right now. And it's also in regards to functional units and types of equipment. Should it be electrical? Should it be mechanical? How do you actually limit yourself? Because I think the art of doing, creating an ISO standard and the work in general is limiting the scope of it so it can be used for something. Because if you make it too broad, there is a risk that it will not have the right effect, and it can't really be used to assess anything but just a guideline. So that is some of the things that we are working on, and that's the work that is being done in the technical group, which is headed by Danish Standards. And this is also where we can open up for other participants to participate in this work and listen in and contribute to it. So this was a little bit of a tidbit. It was a little fast, but that is super important when we do a tidbit. Is I'm going to just fuel it your way, and then you, while you have your lunch, have a chance to get inspired. And my hope today is you get inspired within the maritime efficiency, which is a huge important area that can contribute to the global decarbonization of the maritime industry. So now we are ready for questions. And I don't know, Henriette, do you have questions that you want to ask me, or how is that set up? Ooh. Oh, you're working out. Okay, I can work out as well. I'll do these.
I was thinking to put the dog in as a stand-in while I was doing my exercises. So
okay.
He didn't want to sit on the chair, so he was a little bit shy to be on stage.
Yeah, it takes some exercise or some getting used to the whole camera thing.
If you hear the dog say, it's because he wants to play. Yeah.
And I know actually Ditte is posting right now that we have a LinkedIn group. And we also have a LinkedIn page. So if you go to Maritime Energy Efficiency on LinkedIn, you will be able to follow us on the page and get the latest news. And we're almost we are soon launching our own website that will also have more information on the area. So so that was it. Yeah, that was very compressed. Not so much time for any.
So awesome, Rasmus, that a little Danish company like ReFlow has started up this huge international project together with very, very strong partners, and that you're gonna make something that will influence or hopefully change the world. I mean, when I heard about this project for the first time, I was thinking, but how did you get that idea? I mean, it's really thinking big, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the way it actually started was Danish Maritime that could see there is demand from their members working within equipment manufacturing, that there are no guidelines within energy efficiency, and they could see it's going to be big, and it is going to be big. So they approached Danish Standard, and Danish Standard and Danish Maritime, knowing that we here at ReFlow working with the sustainability and quantification of sustainability, contacted us, and then we finalized the idea, right?
Great.
So it's super exciting work, definitely.
Definitely. And then fantastic that this comes from a small country like Denmark. This would be something you usually would see coming up from France, England, US, whatever. So
that's true. And I think it's also showing Denmark towards the global maritime industry as one of the countries that actually looking at sustainability also in the maritime industry. And I think that's very important signal to send out. Indeed. Definitely.
Well, I've got a couple of questions. I also have a few myself, but I want to give privilege to our attendees to ask their questions. So Lene Mahler, she's asking, which steps do you see as the most complicated and challenging in the process of developing the new ISO standard? Very good question.
Yeah, and here, this is just my own words, and I haven't had a chance to talk with Danish standards who is going to be doing the negotiations. But from what I see, the negotiations that we're going to be having in the international forum, once we have this this voted through, the whole work in trying to find consensus in what to actually include into the standard, and how do we actually measure it, and how do we actually make it to something that can be used. Because I think working with many stakeholders in many projects through my experiences, that the more people we have involved with different interests, the more difficult it's going to be to actually find a common ground that everybody can use or most can use. Because working also, I think, with the standard is also very hard. So because we need to narrow it down, and to try and figure out what should we not include in this standard and what should we include. That's going to be the hard work, I'm sure. And getting all the member countries, the 65, I believe, member countries involved in ISO, and they all have to have their meetings, and then they have to come back in a very democratic way, and that makes sure that everybody has something to say, and that can take time, and that's why we also have 3.5 years to do it. Because there is different steps through the whole creation of the standard. That can be challenging.
It would definitely have been easier if it were if the idea came from China.
I don't know. I know China is actually the chair people right now in this committee, and they're a very important country, because we also know that they are a very large manufacturing country. So so they're definitely important also to have on board with this idea. Definitely.
Good, thank you. We have yet another question, again from Lene. And she's asking, do you already have an idea on how big and what kind of investments an average ship owner will have to make for a single vessel in order to follow such a new ISO standard?
I think we need to turn that question around and say, what is the incentive to follow the standard, right? And if we go back to the beginning of my presentation, one of the incentives that I mentioned could be that you're going to have more, you're going to have cost, right? Because the cost of future fuels are going to be higher, right? So this is actually a saving. We hope to use this as a saving mechanism, so ship owners are able to, when they have to create or have to build new vessels, or they're going to upgrade existing vessels, doing retrofits, they have a tool to actually assess which one has the higher energy efficiency in the right way. So it's going to be a standardized approach, because we need to measure apples and apples, right? So in regards to the investment, it's hard to say, because it all depends on the operational profile of the vessel. It all depends on what type of fuel it's running on. So this is not so much involved with the investments, but more on how can we make the investments as smart as possible.
Makes sense. Makes sense, absolutely. Good. Lene, she gives you a comment back and say, yes, I see your point and completely agree. Thank you, Rasmus. Yep. Then we have Connor Fürstenberg. He's a consultant, and he only wrote it to the panelists, so I will read it up.
Hello, Connor.
Can you please describe how this ISO standard will complement the related IMO and regional regulations?
Yeah, now we get very technical, right? And the idea here that this ISO standard is gonna aid the work and the ambitions that are always set forth in the IMO in regards to the. Now there's a lot of abbreviations, so if you're not already in them, it can go very fast. But there is a SEEMP initiative in regards to the ship energy efficiency management program that is set forth by IMO in regards to making vessels around the world more energy efficient, right? So the idea is that we can hopefully down the line tie this standard into that. So we will have a practical tool where you can, as an equipment manufacturer and a ship owner, use this to know when is it good or bad and where are you compared to this. So it's meant as a complement to this. There will also be other initiatives and other programs from IMO that we hope that it can complement as well as a tool.
So is this ISO standard also going to be for is it only for equipment manufacturers, or is it also well, energy efficient? But which kind of companies are the target group? Can you mention like?
Yeah, it depends on the outcome of the final standard, if what it includes. But for what we are looking at right now, it will be equipment manufacturers that will have electrical and mechanical components on their vessel, and that's the latest. But it can definitely change, and I think it should fathom as much as possible on the vessel that involve the energy efficiency. But that's the big work that's going on now. So in general, it is equipment suppliers that are selling and producing mechanical and electrical equipment.
Cool. We have one more question from Lene. I think she likes ISO standards. So she's, I mean, what if, just a quick question here. What if I or Lene, we had some inputs to the project, or we wanted to join somehow? Would that be possible?
It will be possible. Then you go in, and I think Ditte posted a bit earlier in the tidbit a link to Danish standard ds.dk, and in there you'll be able to see a more detailed description about the project, and then there will be a way to actually contact Ditte, who is the project lead on this, who can help with the facilitation of what direction you can contribute in. Definitely.
I mean, it's an awesome opportunity you have to influence the world. So
absolutely.
We encourage all of you out there to, if you have just a little bit of input you want to give into this project, just go ahead and contact Ditte. Well, we'll have the last question from Lene Mahler, and she asks, how much do you think best practices will influence the energy efficiency in comparison to new actual technical equipment, etc., in regards to the new ISO standard?
It's a good question. I believe that it's going to be a necessity that you have that you show you're creating components, systems that have some degree of energy efficiency. It's going to be imperative for the ship owners going forward that they implement energy efficient operation on their vessels because the cost of fuel. So we can see this as being a competitive parameter in the future for the ship owners. So it's going to be important, but I don't know if it's going to be a new rule or a new legislation. That's way too early to say, but it will make good sense for the ship owners to focus and use a standard like this to assess the general construction and so on of the vessel.
Exactly, as you mentioned in the beginning, like when you buy a dishwasher, it's easy to compare if you want to buy from one producer or another. So it also encourages these producers to do something which is energy efficient. So, you know, we all know that or it has to be legislation or it has to be money. That's what makes the world go around, isn't it?
And I think also what we're seeing in the maritime industry is also the ambition to do something good. It is starting to pop up, and I'm so happy working within sustainability in the maritime industry that is not all about a spreadsheet, but if you put it in a spreadsheet, you also quantify the sustainability side of it, because it's actually showing to be very important for the end customer who are actually buying the services from the ship owner, that they can actually quantify environmental savings, right? Because you and me as a consumer, we are interested in how we are buying our products and what CO2 footprint it actually leaves when we buy it. And that's going to be a trend that's going to catch on more and more.
And this is what I know you're doing in your daily life as a CEO and founder of ReFlow. There you are quantifying these circular economy benefits of components to ships. But we will leave it for another tidbit, because that's also a very, very interesting topic. And we actually had one year ago, so might be time to
refresh. A lot of exciting stuff have happened working with circular economy, and it's getting more and more relevant now. So
yeah, and now
we'll definitely look in the calendar, Henriette, and see if we can fit in a tidbit for that.
Cool. Rasmus, we have come to an end, and people, they apparently enjoyed it. There are
Yay! Exciting.
So now it's also getting time for you and me to have a snack. So I would just say thank you so much, Rasmus, for spending your lunchtime with us today. And thank you to all of you out there for listening along. We hope you got useful experiences out of this. And please join the project if you have anything good to put into it. For Titbits, I will just say that we are back in the Titbit studio tomorrow. And there we are gonna dive into what will happen if we put, for instance, ammonia in an engine. Because we have in the studio Anders Iversen, who is working at DTU, and he's doing these experiments. So he's gonna serve a 3-course lunch tomorrow, where he'll try to explain what happens if you put ammonia is one, and the 2 others I can't even mention them, but it's not of my specialty. But 3 different new fuels into the engine. So that is going to be very, very concrete on these new fuels of the future. So listen along tomorrow at 12 o'clock. And Anders, there are a lot of subscriptions already, but we have space for up to 100 here at these tidbits. Good. This tidbit has been recorded, and Rasmus, he has also been sending live from the snack bar at ReFlow. So you will have the opportunity to listen along again, and we will send you the link, all you who are here today. So feel free to share it if anybody would have benefits of listening. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day out there. Bye-bye.